Section 6.3, Part 2, dividing our polynomials. This form or this process is going to be the synthetic division. So before we start that, just wanted to go over some things that we need to have. So first of all, we need to have our polynomials in standard form, and then we just need to be able to list the coefficients. So that's basically what I wanted to go over in our bell ringer here. So I have these all filled out for us. So basically just putting them in order from highest exponent to lowest exponent, and then listing the coefficients. So 4x cubed minus 2x squared plus 5x plus 9. That's just putting them in order from highest power to lowest power. And then listing the coefficients 4, -2, 5, and 9. You'll see why I'm having you do that here once we get into the problems. Number 2, we have a couple of like terms, -4x to the fourth plus 4x to the fourth. When we add those together, we're going to get a -3x to the fourth, then plus x cubed minus 7x. So if we just list those coefficients, we would have -3, 1, and -7. Now, if you watch the video from 6.3.1, like I had said, if you're missing any terms, you need to fill those in with zeros. So if we look here, we're missing a x squared term, right? Like there's no x squared term here, and there's also no term without a number. So when I wrote it down here in green, I filled in a 0 for the x squared and a 0 for the number with no variable, and you'll see why when we do these examples. So let's just jump right into these examples here. Using synthetic division, again, you can do these by doing the long division like we had done in the 6.3.1 notes, but like I said, this is much simpler, faster, easier. Most people prefer this method because there's just less work. It just doesn't really seem like you're not dealing with the x's at all, you're just dealing with the numbers. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this 1. Now, if you remember that process, after we found out, what number do we multiply x by to get to 3x to the third, in the next step we multiplied through by a -1. We basically changed the signs. So our changing the signs happens right here. Instead of taking a +1, we're going to take and we're going to put a -1 out here. And we're going to put that on, like, it's kind of looks like a backwards capital L. I just call it the shelf. So we take the -1 and we put it on the shelf. Now we're going to take all the coefficients here. 3, -4, right? So we're just taking the 3 here. Don't forget the signs in front of it. So -4, +2, and -1. If you are missing any of your x's going from the highest power down to 1, down to the number that doesn't have a variable, you have to fill it in with a 0. We're not missing any here on this one, so we're just going to fill those in. So we just need those numbers. So 3, leave a little space, -4, leave a little space, 2, and leave a little space, -1. Right? So you want those to be like on the same line, right? If you're doing this on line paper or whatever, put those on the same line. Leave enough space for you to fill in another number, because we're going to write numbers underneath here, and then we're going to put a line. There we go. All right, so first thing we do is we're going to take this 3 right here, and we're going to bring it down. We always do that. First number here just gets brought straight down. Bring that down. There we go. Then we take that 3. We take this number right here, and we're going to multiply it by the -1. So 3 times -1 is -3. And then we put that in the next column. So there goes -3. And then we add -4 plus a -3 gives us -7. Repeat the process. -7 times -1 is a +7. Put it in the next column. Add together. 2 plus 7 is 9. 9 times -1 is -9. Put it in the next column. -9. -1 plus -9 is -10. And as far as your dividing part goes, we are basically finished. Okay, so now we have to write out our answer. Okay, this last number here is your remainder. This is the leftover part. Okay, so if you're asked if this is a factor, if this number is a 0, then yes, it is a factor because there is no remainder, So if this is a 0, then you're good. Okay. But basically what we want to do now is we want to write this as our final answer. So what do we get here now that we're done doing our dividing? We're going to start with our first term here with this 3, and we're going to drop this exponent down by 1. So we started with an x to the third, so this is going to be an x squared. So the first one is 3x squared, and then we're just going to go down from there. So minus 7x plus 9 plus, and then our remainder, like I said, the remainder here was negative 10 divided by this right here, what we started with, which would be on the outside if we did that doing the long division like we had done yesterday. So there's, oops, some extra stuff in there. Let me back up. X plus 1. So that's your final answer. And again, we can kind of clean this up. You know, we can simplify this a little bit. And basically what I mean is just taking that negative there from that 10 and just rewriting this as like 3x squared minus 7x plus 9. And instead of writing plus a negative 10, adding a negative is the same thing as doing a minus. So, you know, we could do it like this and say 10 over x plus 1. Same thing. All right, so either of those answers would be acceptable. I don't know. Maybe this one would be more algebraically correct. I don't know. I would accept both of those answers, though. So there's number 1. Number 2. This is one I want you to try. So go ahead, pause the video, write that down, try the problem, see what you get. Hopefully you do that. So go ahead, pause it, and then come back and check your answer. So hopefully you did that. Hopefully you paused it, and this is what you should have for your answer. So let me reveal what I have here. So that's what your setup should look like. All right, this is a negative 2 now, right? This is a negative 2, so we use the opposite sign. So we put a positive 2 on our shelf. Excuse me. So we put a positive 2 out here. All the coefficients, well, this is a 1, positive 4, positive 1, negative 6. And then we do our process. So bring the 1 down. Bring the 1 down, times 2 is 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 1 plus 12 is 13. 13 times 2 is 26. Negative 6 plus 26 is 20. And your final answer should look like that. Again, this 1 right here is your coefficient. First term needs to start with 1 power less than what we started with here. So this is x to the third. So that means this will start with x squared. And then it goes down from there. Plus 6x, plus 13, plus, and then 20 over what we have right here, which is x minus 2. All right, so that's all we have there for number 2. So hopefully you got that one correct. And I'm going to do number 3 with you, and you'll see why here when we do this one. Now, the only thing that's different about this one, what I've been warning you about on the 631 notes, and I also warned you about this in the bell ringer, is we are missing a term. If you look right here, we do not have an x squared term. So let me do the setup first of all. This is x plus 4, so we're going to do the opposite. So over here on our shelf, we're going to put a negative 4. Now when I write my coefficients, x to the third is a 1. X squared is not there, so we have to have a place filler. We need to have that 0 there for the x squared that's missing. Okay, because really there is a 0x squared. We just don't write that because there's no reason to write it. And then our x term is negative 13, and our number with no variable is 12. Okay? So that is what your setup should look like. If you want to pause it and try it now, you can. Or if you want to just stay with me and go through the problem with me, you can. But I did want to throw one problem in there that's like that, so you can see what I'm talking about there. If you're missing a term, that's what you need to do. All right, so now we're starting it off the same way. We're going to take that first number there, that 1. We don't ever do anything with it other than bring it down. Now we multiply. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. And then add. Easy adding happening here. That's 0 plus negative 4 is just negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16. Negative 13 plus 16 is 3. 3 times negative 4 is a negative 12, which is nice because this has a remainder of 0, which means this would be a factor. We weren't asked that in the question, but this would be a factor. So we need to finish out the problem here by just writing down our final answer. It started with x to the third. So our final answer here, this 1 needs to start with 1 power less than that. So since we started with x to the third, this will start with x squared minus 4x plus 3. That is your final answer for this problem. Ooh, got a little crazy there. All right, so there's your final answer. And again, like I said, the synthetic division seems to be more preferred just because when you're doing this whole process, you don't have the x's and everything going on in there. It seems to be a little bit easier, so you probably prefer this one over the long division. But again, try your homework problems. Let me know if you have any questions. Just send me an email, and I'll get back to you. Check back on Thursday. Check your classroom. I'll have the answers posted then, so you'll be able to check and see if you have these correct, and then let me know if you have any questions.